And stars at staterooms and stowaways. Cruise director K.GLADING is here with his tales of life at sea.
The nice girl's like a sailor, but we know what the mothers think. A life at sea has often been synonymous with a life of disrepute and some very tall tales. My uncle and dad were both in the Merchant Navy.
That all figures. Now I know where you get it from, Gareth.
Actually, I have to say, it is true that they have some very tall tales. And my dad always had a bracelet with a picture of a young Chinese lady in it. He had
What?
this in
What did your mother say?
Well, no, this is before he met my mother.
Oh.
But I've always wondered. There could be another me somewhere, and
Well, if that's for a few years at sea, just imagine the stories you have after 24 years at sea. Enough time to fill anyone's knapsack full of yarns. But how many bother to write it all down? Well, luckily our next guest did, and here's the result. It's this great book, Stars, Staterooms and Stowaways. It's anecdotes from very colourful career in cruising. What I really want to know, Gary, who's here with us, is what did you have to leave out? What couldn't you put in?
Probably about 23 and a half years of the 24. What I tried to do with this book was to appeal to a wide variety of people, because all of the royalties go to the animal charity that I run in the north of Italy for abandoned and abused animals. So I wanted to reach as many people as possible, hence the stories about the stars, passengers, the staterooms, and the stowaways were animals that before 9/11 I was actually able to bring back and keep in my cabin on board, get their medical certificates and then take them home.
Yeah, we were going to ask you about that, because the stowaways bit is the really intriguing bit.
Yes.
And you literally have a menagerie
Yes.
of animals that you've collected from your travels.
Well, not just from the travels. There's 6 donkeys, there's 32 cats, there's goats.
You had a donkey in your cabin?
No, just
all on the plot.
no, just
I had a moment
just
there.
the cats there. But they were the stowaways, because officially, probably I shouldn't have had them,
Yeah.
but blind I was turned.
Very good.
I'm going to change the subject slightly. Let's get back to the racy stuff.
Yes.
And I mean, a life at sea does have a racy reputation. In your experience, much truth in that, Gary?
Definitely. There's 2 ways of looking at it. The people working on board, obviously,
Yes.
opportunities are there, they're rife. But then from the passenger point of view, for 8 years in my cruising career, I worked as Costa Cruise Line's Director of Entertainment. And one of the weirdest things that I was ever requested to do, we'd have a nudist cruise, but well, not the worst one, the most exciting one, I suppose, as far as trying to get things organised, was a swingers cruise. And I had to organise.
Are we talking about swingers now?
Swingers.
We're not talking Benny Goodman.
No, these were swingers. The only problem was where to deliver the bill at the end of the cruise, because you didn't know which cabin they were going to end up in. And the weirdest thing that they asked me to do was they were going from Ibiza to Barcelona. We had to get female and male strippers and drag acts to come on and entertain an entire night on the ship. It was just... Yes, definitely. I think any holiday atmosphere like that, people tend to let the hair down quite a bit.
Well, that certainly changed my view of
I need somebody to lift my jaw back up. I've lived an innocent life.
Well, it's changed my attitude towards cruising. I mean,
Hence the word cruising, I think.
There we go. The interesting thing for me is the passengers,
Yes.
because you huge numbers of them through, and of course
Absolutely,
you always
yes.
have to be there with your smile, with your charm. What were they really like?
Do you know, I'll be perfectly honest, I grew up in a family of 6 children in 8 years, and you're either a people person or you just have to move out of the family. I love the passengers. I'm a curious person anyway. I love to get to meet the people. I take my job very seriously, very sincere. I love to make sure that they're having a good time. And I think that's you get a buzz when you see that someone's come away, maybe they're tired, maybe they've had problems at home, whatever, and you just see the weight melt away from their shoulders and they're just having a great time. It does give you, it's an uplifting thing, to be honest.
You've got a great story about one old lady who took part in a talent competition. Tell us that.
Yes. Well, what happens with these passengers is we normally audition them. But we don't always have the time to really do that when there's a lot of people that come. And this one particular lady, she spoke many, many languages. And I was working on a ship where we used 5 and 6 languages at a time. And she said, I'm just going to tell some sweet little stories. Well, I speak 8 languages, and I was embarrassed in all 5 that she spoke. It was just words that you...
So they were naughty jokes, basically.
Yes, just to put it mildly, yes.
So all these images that I have, because I'm not a fan particularly of cruising, and I have never been on one, but I have this image of it being quite old, being quite stuffy.
Oh, it's not.
It's not, no.
No, the thing is, when I first started out, I used to say we had more titles in the cabins than in the library, because everybody, lord, lady, you know, princess, and the Europeans. But these days it's much more democratic. You can go on a family holiday, you can go away for 2 days to Zeebrugge and back, you can go on a world cruise for 103 days. So there's, for every single person's financial ability and the amount of time they have off, there's a cruise for you. Really, it's changed.
Well, sadly, we're going to have to leave it here, but thank you so much for coming in to talk to us today.
Pleasure.
It's a good book, it's got some very funny stories in, and if you'd like to leaf through Gary's rather colourful tales of life at sea, then we've got some signed copies of Stars, Staterooms and Stowaways to give away. For details, just go to the website. There's the address.